You know, I got to take my hat off to Kathleen, to Colbert, and their team. This was their brainchild. We wanted to come up with a course, and it was their idea to help train our leaders to be better leaders, to help support each and every one of you, you know, in what you do. And we know that being a leader is not an easy thing to do. It's, you know, dealing with personnel is not an easy thing to do. I was telling the group in the last meeting that you know, you can put together the best system in the whole world, you know, the best system in the whole world. And when you put people like me and other people in it, we just mess it up. You know what I mean? Like, you can have the most ironclad system, and once you put people in it, they'll figure a way to botch it up, right? So, so leadership is really important. And so what I'm going to do here over the next hour is go over with you my 23 years of experience in leadership, the experiences that I've had, the research that I've done, the people that I've followed. If any of you like sports, you'll get to hear a lot of sports analogies because I love sports and I relate sports to business a lot. It's a way I sort of have that little attachment to running a business, and I look at great coaches and try to pull and grab from them, and grab and nab, as Eddie would say, from them, like all the best things that they do in order to become a great leader. You know, my experience as a leader started really young, at like 19 and 20 years old. I sort of got thrown into a position with J.R. Morin and starting a company from nothing, and Steve was around, and Joe, and for me, I sort of I went through the school of hard knocks. The first couple of years, many people in the field used to make fun of me. I was 19 years old. They used to make fun of me and say, "Why do you have that kid who doesn't know nothing running the business?" And actually they were right, because I really didn't. But what I did was I sort of used that, Michael, as motivation to work harder, to learn. I mean, I had to take a fast track, Clem. I mean, I had to take a real fast track to try to learn what it meant to be a leader. And I used to go above board. I mean, back in those days, I mean, even though they were not the nicest suits, you know, they're probably, you know, Belk suits and Men's Warehouse and all this stuff, but I'd wear a suit and tie every day when other people weren't, just because I thought, Colbert, I had to just do a little bit more than what everyone else did, Ken, to earn that respect, you know? And, you know, I spent a lot of my college days when all my buddies were going out drinking and going to parties and stuff like that. I spent those nights packing boxes, answering the telephone, working the weekends, and you know, just learning to get better. And so I think, you know, through a lot of that experience and having to go through a fast track, I learned that I had to learn from other people and learn from their experiences, what worked, what didn't work, and becoming a really great leader. I think one of the things that's important in this organization of being a leader, every organization is different. You know, what one company does doesn't apply here. What we do maybe doesn't. We're a unique animal. Another company is a unique animal. Obviously, we try to learn from what's successful and adapt it here. But you know, one thing I do know for sure in our culture, and I think you all would agree with me, that in order to be a great leader here at Market America at shop.com, is you have to be a leader who's playing the game. Leaders who are just we don't sit in ivory towers. We don't just delegate and just let people, like we're in it with everybody, you know. So if you think of a baseball or football team, we're a manager who's in the lineup as well, or we're a coach on a football team who's playing the game with everybody. And I think there's something to be said about that, and I think that that's really important. I think that helps build respect of your team with each and every one of you, and with me. You know, that we are one team, but we also are player coaches. Another thing I think that's important as a leader here, and the leaders who, and when I put this together, I thought about leaders who were with us who didn't work out, and you know, ones that have just, you know, thrived and excelled. One thing that I will say is that in order to be a really good leader here, we have this organizational chart and hierarchy, Martha, but we don't need to live by it. So, for instance, I might work with someone, and it happens every day. I might call Gene and we're working on something in ordering or something on the web. I don't need to let Michael know. I don't have to let Gene know. And Michael and Gene don't care. I can call Yugi and say, Yugi, hey, let's look at this thing. I don't need it. He's busy enough. Why do I need to call him and get his permission to go meet with Yugi? Eddie, I'll work. I mean, I can talk about this with everybody. I'll meet with Beth without Clem being in. I'll meet with Patricia. I called you today. Some of these organizations that's like, oh, well, you got to go through me. To me, that's always been crazy. Yeah. Like, are you a team? And then when leaders, and I've had leaders in the past come to me and say, well, why'd you call John without letting me know? Is it that big of a deal? I mean, like, all we're trying to do is get things done. I don't need, you're busy enough. You know, do I need to bring you in on something you don't need? So I think what really works here well in a leadership role is that we work with everybody and we don't worry about the hierarchy. And we use our best judgment on when we bring those people in. I'll be the first to admit, I've made mistakes where I brought someone in and I actually should have brought in, their leader as well. But we'll make those mistakes, but 99 out of 100 times we don't. So I think the leaders who work well with everybody are going to be really successful here. And as I go through these things, I think it's also important to note that I'm the farthest person from being perfect. I make mistakes all the time. I made a mistake today when I thought that, something that we had talked about, that you had sent me. I make mistakes all the time. But you have to admit your mistakes too. I hate the person who says, oh, everyone makes mistakes. We all make mistakes every single day. And, it's funny because if I could do things over again, and I think you all speak to that, we all would do a lot of things over. I told a story about, and this is Joe's fault too, Angel, by the way, is when we first built this building. I don't know, a lot of you were here during that time. Joe was sort of the architect of it, learned a lesson he probably wouldn't be the architect the next time. But if you weren't here when we first built this, and I would tell Joe this if he was here, by the way, when we first built this building, this beautiful entrance and foyer wasn't here. Lois is nodding her head. No lie, the first day I came into the building, I couldn't wait. First day, fresh new, because the other building, which was right up the street, I mean, we were packed in, We basically booted out every tenant because they just got tired of us and just, I couldn't wait. And I come in and I'm like, this is beautiful. Like the front of the building. Well, come to find out, this was actually the side of the building. And the front of the building was literally the side of the building. And I was like, Joe, and he's like, what's wrong? I was like, first of all, this should be the front. Do you remember that? But we all make mistakes is what I'm trying to say. When you live and that's why it was great that we expanded because we made it a beautiful, now you can tell where the front of the building is, you know what I mean? So all I'm just trying to say is I'm not perfect. I'm going to go over with you today a lot of mistakes I've made, a lot of things, Yugi, that I've learned that hopefully I can pass on to you all. And we continue to build. Leadership is an ever-evolving thing. It's something you're learning all the time. And you'll go through challenges that you never had before a month ago. You'll go through different things. So it's important that you live and you learn from those things. So the first part of this discussion I want to talk about is what makes great leaders. What makes great leaders? And what are the qualities and characteristics of great leaders? And I'm going to tell you what the qualities and characteristics are of not good leaders at the same time, and how it works within the confines of this. You can put the phone away if you want to. It's all right.
I listened up whenever I heard
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Give me that phone.
Yeah, I got mine on vibrate. Don't worry, ain't nothing gonna happen. I think it'll be all right. We gotta have fun doing this. So the first thing that's really crucial, you can pick it up and take a couple pauses if you want. Eddie works all the time. I mean, so I will give it to him. The first thing that's really important, and I stole this one from the former Dallas Cowboy coach Jimmy Johnson. And I read in one of his books, and he said, in order to treat everyone fairly, you have to treat them differently. Now, what does that mean? A lot of people were brought up to say, well, we should treat everyone the same. Actually, no. not in a leadership role in this business or in any business. So what do I mean by in order to treat everyone fairly, you have to treat them differently? Let's say Steve and Kevin, just hypothetically, do something wrong. And they have to suffer.
Is that hypothetical?
No, it's typically no. And yeah, right? And they're going to be treated fairly from the standpoint, Clem, the consequences will be the same. The repercussions will be the same. But how I go about handling it is going to be different. And it goes about knowing who your people are. So for instance, they have the same problem, broke the same rule, whatever it may be. How I tell Kevin and approach Kevin about it, Kevin might be the kind of guy that you have to get on, you have to ride him, and that's the best way to get action out of him. If I do that to Steve, and this is all hypothetical, he might just clamp up. If I beat up on him and get on him, he might just clam up and he might never be productive anymore for me. So it's critically that the repercussion's the same, Eddie, but how I treat it's differently. I need to know who to ride. I need to know who not to ride. I need to know who I need to pat on the back, who I need to get on a little bit more. So that's what I mean about treating everybody differently in order to treat them fairly. You know, there's also a time to be upset and a time to pat somebody on the back. Look, you do have to, as a leader, be able to, get on people. You have to do it. You will never be a good leader if you are the same monotone every day, every week, every hour. It won't. And you won't get the respect of your team that you need. They need to see your different expressions, your different emotions, and so forth. Does that mean that we make mistakes? Look, you know how many times I've left this building in which I put my foot in my mouth? I can't even count how many times that is. I mean, we make mistakes though, but we're humans. We all have done that, so, but it's important that, you show those different emotions. And, it's funny, I told the group this prior, I watched, I don't know if y'all saw the great commentator from ESPN, Stuart Scott, passed away on Sunday. I was crying watching all the tributes they were giving to him. And one thing he told, like ESPN hires a lot of athletes, right? Former athletes to be commentators. Every one of them, the commonality that I heard all of them say that he told them, and I'm saying the same thing to you all, and it just resonated with me, was that don't change who you are. So Michael, your personality is different from Yugi. Martha, you're different. Your personality is different from Eddie. And that's what actually makes our business really great. If we all had the same personalities, we would be a stale business and we wouldn't grow. So, a lot of times when I'm working with people, I'll pair someone up that are different a little bit, because typically what ends up being the outcome ends up being the best. So don't change who you are. Don't change who you are. Be yourself, because people are going to, don't try to be somebody else. I don't know if you guys have watched House of Cards. I love that show, but some days I like Frank Underwood, but don't try to be like Frank Underwood. You know what I'm saying? So be yourself. One of the things I would stress with your team, and one of the things that, every day I wake up, I'm always focused. I'm happy. I'm ready to have a great day. Okay? The things that bring me down and might bring you down are the fundamentals. If we can't block and tackle, those are the things that drive me crazy. If we don't block and tackle, how are we going to get a first down? How are we going to score a touchdown? The things that drive me crazy are the common sense things. I always tell people, if common sense was so common, why do so few people have it? And it's true. You ever you have, I'm sure this happens, really? Really? You don't, and if you're having to do that a lot with individuals, you have to think that they might not be the right individual, because it's not about the people who are working hard. We make mistakes, all of us make mistakes all the time, every day, and we learn from them, and that's okay. But it's the basic things, it's the penalties, it's the blocking, it's all those things that, will never let us advance. You ever have a day or 2 days or whatever, it's like you come in, smile on your face, you're going to be productive that day, and then you leave and you feel like you just got nothing done, right? Because you couldn't, and a lot of that, Gene, is because of those kind of things. It's like, that you feel like and it happens to me, like, you feel like you can't advance because you couldn't even get that right. Am I making sense? Like, even since Kathleen loves football so much, I guarantee you the 4 big games this weekend in the NFL, you don't even need to look at the score to see who wins the game. All you got to do is look at one stat, turnovers. And without even looking at who wins the game, don't even look at the score. Just go straight to the turnovers, and I guarantee you, whoever had the least amount of turnovers is going to win the game. And every coach. And so those are the things that, as leaders, we should be frustrated about. Because if we can't get over that hurdle, then we're never going to get better and better. I mean, look at the worst teams towards the end of the season. Those games are so hard to watch, right? Because there's just penalty, Clem, after penalty, after miss. It's the fundamentals and that's something that we need to strive every day to get better here, and that's an everybody effort, me and everybody down the road. Another simple saying in leadership, in your team, just tell people the main thing they have to do is just everyone do their job. Just everybody do their job. If you're talking about a football team, from the water boy to the guy up in the press, to the guy up in the box. The water boy doesn't bring the water during a timeout, these guys might get dehydrated. Everybody from the water boy to wherever it may be, if everyone does their job, all of these fundamentals and turnovers go down significantly. And if people can't do their job, look, you have the authority to let them go. I mean, we want to grow. The company wants to grow. We're having these sessions because we want you to grow. And so we're committed to each and every one of you. In your role, in my role, leadership by example is crucial. And when I mean leadership by example, one being work ethic. And it's just me. I'm probably take it to the worst degree possible, but I typically try to be one of the first ones here, and I'm typically try to be one of the last ones out. How can you be a leader if you're coming in strolling at 8:45 and your team is already set in place? No one's going to respect you. And the other thing is respect. So if somebody gets promoted to a leadership level, the worst thing they can do is assume that they should be respected. Absolutely not. Respect is earned. Just because you move into a position, now you have to respect me? You got to prove your leadership. You got to prove that, and it's done by how you act, how you react, how you conduct yourself, being in here before them, leading, being ready for them. I mean, there's just no way that your team can be in place and you come strolling in. That's not a leader. That's not a leader. You have to set an example for them. I'll give you an example of something true life to me. There are many times, Michael and you, and from a development standpoint, this can happen in all groups, Eddie's group, Steve's group, whatever, where we have teams who are working on projects Friday night, Saturday, just tirelessly. And I'll get an email or a call over the weekend where they want to verify something that this is good. You know what I do, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I immediately get on it. And I immediately look at it, right? And I respond to it. How can I have my team require them to be here on a Friday night, a Saturday, and then imagine if they sent me, Kevin, that email and said, oh, I'll get back to you on Monday. What? So you have to lead by example. So if you require them to do it, you got to do that reciprocally. So that's something that I live by. That I'm not going to put people in positions that I'm not willing to do myself. But could you have, and I've seen people in email chains who have said that, I'm like, huh? Like, your team is here, and they need you, and you're like, I'll get back to you. Are you crazy? So it's important though that shows leadership, and I know you all do this, but I'm just trying to reinforce it because I'm hoping that as I go through this, you'll think about examples that maybe you've had in the past or maybe you pick up 2 or 3 of these things that really help tremendously. This is one that I've learned probably over the last 3 years that's resonated with me, without a question. We make decisions, all of us, every day. We make decisions all the time, right? I mean, Lois, you have your team coming to you all the time. You're making 10, 20 different decisions a day at least. Martha, all of you guys are making decisions all the time, like really quick. But one thing that's really important is the toughest decisions, the ones that you can't sleep over, the ones that you angst over, the one that you spend months on, deciding on, without a doubt are the most rewarding ones. So I'll give you an example. We had a division here with a leader who was here for 15 plus years. Very loyal, dedicated, worked hard, but lost the respect of his team. Once you lose the respect of your team as a leader, it's over. It's over. It's over. Well, the person had a lot of good qualities, but that was gone, and then among other things. But I have a heart. Been here 15 years plus, worked hard, dedicated, whatever. And for months, I couldn't sleep over. I'd wake up in the middle of the night. It was tough. Once I did it, y'all, once I made that decision, we had one not too long ago. Once you do it, there's no question it's the most rewarding thing you could ever do. It's 100 times more rewarding than all the decisions you make in one day. And it's like, whew, really? I feel like we're going to make some progress now. Right? And it's not the daily decisions, guys. It's the tough ones. It's the ones that you're like, Michael, should I do it? I think I should. And then after you vet it and you say, I got to do it. But it's hard because you care about the person. You've done some good things, but all in all, it's better for the organization. But when you do it, doesn't you just feel like, man, you know what? Tomorrow, it's a new day, right? So it's important to not, you can weigh on those. We have weighed, because those decisions you don't make in a day. Those decisions you make over a month, but once you say, I got to do it now, because you're hoping it's going to work and it doesn't, you got to make them, and I promise you, it'll be like a new day, right? And you feel like we can now make some progress. So that's really, and I know that, you've had a lot of those too over the course. Everyone has had that, but those are the ones that without a doubt are the most rewarding. It's not the 20 that you make every day, the decisions. It's the ones that you can't sleep over. Here's another important thing as a leader that you have to do. And everyone has their own methodology in doing this, is you have to be organized. I'll tell you what I do. Okay, I have a sort of an interesting filing system. As you know, I follow up all the time. My philosophy is, and I'm not saying you have to use this, because I think there's probably a better way for me. If there's a project we're working on, that's why I have that one big stack on my desk. That is not that I'm working on it, but for some reason, it reminds me, I will not file anything unless it's completely done. So, for instance, we signed a Visa checkout agreement. In that stack is the Visa contract. I don't have to do anything on it, but it reminds me every day where we're at. Because if I filed it, I feel like it's like Clem, I'm done with it. I've forgotten it. And again, that works for me, but might not work for other people. But one thing that I think is critical of leaders, every day when I leave, and well, during the day I'll have papers everywhere, but I know where they are. But at the end of each day, I take those papers and I put them in my briefcase, and I put my meetings the next day, I put this in a certain area, and my desk is clean as a whistle. And it makes me, because there's nothing, I don't know about you guys, I cannot, if I walked into my office in the morning and I walked in and there were papers all over, I I'd have agita. I would have a heart attack. It's just something about waking up in the morning, walking, and you seeing this pile of stuff that freak you. So when I walk in, literally, my desk is clean as a whistle. I can see my face on the desk, clean, very nice, Michael, and clean. And then I do it, and it takes me 20 minutes at least before I leave. But it's there. And then in the morning, I organize it to where the way my day is going to be. So being organized is important. Why? Because to your subordinates, if they see someone who's sloppy, they're not going to give you that respect that you need. They're going to wonder, do you really have it all together? You know? So that's really important, to be very organized with your work. And again, during the day, I know you're going to have, but if it's always that way and it's just sloppy and you need to take a day and come in here on a Saturday and just don't work and just get organized again. And that's just really important about being a leader. The other thing that's critical in leadership, and we have people who still have to work on this, is you have to have flexibility. We talked about this. You have to be consistent as a leader, but you have to have flexibility. Leadership everything is not always black and white at all. There's got to be gray areas sometimes with people. You follow me? There's got to be that gray area. And as a leader, you have to be able to learn to be flexible. I'll give you an example, going back to a sports analogy. If Steve is my quarterback and I'm the coach and I'm calling the plays on the field, and I call for the wide receiver to run a deep route, I call it into him and he goes to the line and he sees that there's going to be a blitz. Well, if he just runs the play, guess what? He's toast. You got to audible. You got to know when to audible and make those changes. If he makes the change, good chance the play's going to come out right. If he doesn't, so you got to be flexible with your team. Leaders who are just one way, one monotone, this is the way it is, will never succeed. They'll never grow. You have to be flexible but consistent at the same time. Don't get too high on the highs and don't get too low on the lows. And there's a lot to do here. But that's great too. You wouldn't want to come into an organization where everything was the same. It'd be boring. I told my daughter this when she started 11th grade this year. I know that 11th graders, all that matters to the universities is the year-end grade. So I said, "Hun, do not get too high on the highs when you get the A's and jump for joy, and don't get too upset when you get a D on something, because this is a marathon here, And so look at the end zone. When you're doing a project, look at the end zone. There's going to be some bumps in the road. Don't get too high, don't get too low, and just take it in stride." Another thing we've got to do as leaders, and I need you all to stress that along with me, with all of our leaders, is teamwork. I want you all to be able to talk together. I want you to be able to bounce things off of each other. And I think we used to have a big struggle with that years ago. And every year I think we keep moving the needle a little bit more and getting better and getting better. And a lot of it is because of the people that we're bringing in. We're bringing people better in different areas, like training and all the different areas, human resource. We're bringing in better people who have that experience and expertise, and in other areas. But we got to continue to stress teamwork, and you all have to talk and communicate and work together. And that's something that we've got to keep stressing all the time and keep pushing. This one drives me crazy. And we still have people in this organization here. And one thing you'll know is, I'll be honest with you, I think you all know that, is we still have people in this organization that I have to work with that you just can't do this as a leader. You cannot hold grudges with people. Martha, if you have to reprimand one of your staff members, okay? Once you've done that and they've acknowledged it, move to the next, on to the next one. Move on. If you hold that grudge, you'll never be a great leader. I'm just using this as a hypothetical. You will never be a good leader. We make mistakes all the time. We address them and we move on. Yeah, we'll still probably remember it, but we don't think about it. It's over. For me, I address something, I've already forgotten about it. I'm on to the next one. You have to have that loyalty. But we do have leaders who have a problem with turning that away. And we got to go to the next thing. If you hold grudges, you'll never be a great leader. And that's really important. This one's critical. And we need to get better at this too, all of us. And I've learned this over the years. Early on, I wasn't good at this. Please don't think you know everything, okay? Because I don't know everything. Lord knows I don't know everything. And I think I do a pretty good job of utilizing the whole staff to help solve a problem. But please hire people who are better than you. That is still a problem we have in this organization. And I know that. People are scared for some crazy reason to hire people that are better than them. How are you ever going to grow as a leader when all you do is hire people who don't know as much as you know? You'll never grow. The organization will never grow. I take an example of someone like Yugi, who we brought in to handle code. I've learned stuff just from talking to him, and he's put in new things that we never had before. Because we brought in people who knew that. We brought in people, he knows stuff right, that you've learned. It's great. That's what we want. You know what I'm saying? So bring in people who are better than you, who you can learn from, and I guarantee you, you'll be rewarded with that because it's a reflection on you. Every time I hear any of you, one of the things that excites me the most is when we have positions that we're looking to fill, and some leader will come to me and say, Mark, I found this candidate who's going to really make a difference here. They come from this company, and gosh, we got lucky to get this person. They're going to make a huge difference. That is one of the makes my day the happiest. And that's job security for leaders. Job insecurity is when you're the only person who knows something, because we're going to try to find other people who know how to do it. So you've got to bring on people who are better than you in order for you to grow and the organization to grow. Here's another really important thing as a leader. Please, 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 don't jump to conclusions. Don't jump to conclusions. Believe nothing you hear and half of what you see. Okay? Now, I'll tell you, this is where I used to have a fault at. First 5-7 years as a leader, I was called a leader. I really was, and I was learning as I was going. Is if Kathleen or somebody came to me and said, she just as an example, I got a problem with Nancy. I am just hypothetical again. All these are hypotheticals, by the way. Every time I give something to Nancy, it's like a black hole. It never gets done. Nothing ever gets done. What I used to do back in the day is I automatically assumed Nancy's a problem.
Right.
I automatically assumed Nancy was a problem. And then as I got smarter, I started to realize that, okay, don't jump to conclusions, bank it, and let me check for myself. Let me check for myself because I do the same thing. So I might have an issue with Lauren, let's say. I'll talk to JR. When I tell JR my problem with Lauren, I slant the story a little bit in my favor. When Lauren tells JR the problem with me, she slants it a little bit towards her way. So I've learned that there's 3 sides to every story. One person's, we all do it, come on. When you're talking to your wife, when you're talking to your dad, we all do it when there's an argument, right? I mean, we all do it, and your people do it. We're always going to make it a little bit slanted towards our benefit. It's human nature. We all do it. And so you have to know that there's this story, and in between there's that truth somewhere. It's somewhere there that you got to find it. And so that's what I've learned, is not to jump to conclusions and believe nothing you hear and half of what you see. What does that mean? Clem, things aren't always as bad as they seem. You know what I mean? They might look bad, but it's probably not as bad as you think it is in your mind. But find out for yourself. You know what I mean? Find out for yourself and don't jump to conclusions. advocate for your employees as leaders, but champion for the company. Follow me there? Advocate for the employee, but champion for the company. The company is bigger than any one of us. Any one of us. So we have to champion for that. Now, I've got some more stuff. Let's talk more about, I'm going to go back, I want to talk about the blocking and tackling, the fundamentals, for just a minute. Okay? And I want to talk about things that I think are just basic things as a leader that can help you all be more successful and more efficient in what you do. Okay? And this is as it relates to you and leading your team and your staff. Number one, and this is crucial, document, document, document. Okay? Now, what does that mean? I'm talking about with your staff. Document, document, document. Now, many of you believe or think that, let's say Kevin does something wrong, that I have to literally sit down, fill out a write-up form, Yugi, sit down formally, which takes time, face to face, and make him sign something. A lot of people think that. And there is a time for that, which I'll talk about. But what you all need to know, and this is the fastest way to success. Documentation could be, Eddie, I went over something that Eddie that he did incorrectly, and we talked about it in my office. All I got to do is send an email to Ed Kester, and that goes right in his file. Verbal discussions are documentable. So understand that and know that. You don't have to sit down and have a formal discussion with an employee every single time. That takes time. When you do that is when it's gotten to a certain point. You follow me? But you can build up a file both good and bad. And mixture of stuff that you've gone over with employees and put it in their file. And then when it comes time for their review, you can go back and review that information. And I think a lot of people have a misconception that the document has to be something they sign. No. It can literally be a conversation that you have with them and what you want to do is document it then. So it's fresh in your mind and you can build that file up. So that's important to know as sort of a quick way to success. But of course there is a time and a place when you have to do that, sit down, and that's when it's gotten even to an elevated level. Does that make sense? And utilize that. Utilize that. And I'm saying both good and bad. Both good and bad. On serious human relations personnel issues. I'm talking like things like harassment, sexual harassment. You know, there is no such thing in here as discrimination. I don't see colors. My best friends are all different walks of life everywhere. That does not exist in this organization. Ever, nor will it ever. Look at our population. I mean, we've got every, I think, walk of life who works in this organization. Because it's the most fair organization I believe that you could ever work for. But we have 800 employees. I guarantee you, at some point, it's the law of averages. There is going to be someone who comes in here who's a bad apple. Someone who's going to maybe cross the line of harassment, cross the line of discrimination, which is not tolerated in this organization. What you have to do, and this is crucial, anytime you get wind of that, you stop what you do right then. And you go and you report it to Human Resources. You don't let grass grow under it. You don't do anything. You stop what you do and you go to Human Resources and you attack it. And let them start an investigation. The worst thing you can do is do not solve it yourself. Report it immediately, right, Clem? Right. Immediately. I mean, like that second. And then let them take it from there and report it. For the company's sake, number one, of course, but that's what we have to do to put those and nip those things in a bud. Another thing, if an employee is not working out, there will be employees obviously who don't work out, but because of your knowledge and experience with them, you have a feeling that they could be a potential problem if you do terminate them. What I want you to do is, all of these problems are not, these are company problems. Don't put it on yourself to try to solve it. If there's an employee that you need to terminate, and and I've worked with many of you on stuff like this, that you think will be a problem after you terminate them, what you need to do is you need to talk to human resources. Human resources will get with me. I will then in turn hook our lead. We have fabulous lawyers here, full staff of attorneys on staff. Many companies don't have that luxury. And what we'll do is we'll support you. We'll sit down, and we'll sit down as a team, go over the problem, and we'll come up with a best game plan to resolve it. Don't ever try, understand there's a whole group of people who have about any type of skill set here that you can think of. Utilize them. Utilize them. We're all one team. This is a big misconception of leaders in an organization. I see it all the time. Leaders, I hate HR. Not me.
What?
No, not me. Leaders do not like HR. Yeah, Clem, you ever seen that? They think HR is the enemy. They think HR is the enemy. I've had people who have worked here before, no longer here. I never go to HR. Like, why? I just do not go there. I just do not go there. It's a red flag. A red flag? Yeah. Have you ever heard of people like this before? Have y'all ever heard of people like this before? What you all need to understand is HR is your asset. They're your ally. It's amazing how many people, really, there are people who used to work here, Kathleen. I was like, people in high leadership levels, not here anymore, but they're like, I don't go to HR. It's a red flag. It's a red flag. I've never had a good experience with them. No, but they think it's some like a destruction. Let me tell you something, I use HR all the time. All the time. When I've got to do reorganizations, when I have personnel issues that I have to handle from my level, I bring them in. And they're another guiding light for me, that we can sit down and they're experienced at this. HR is your ally. If you're if you feel like there's going to be an issue with something, you need to bounce something off somebody, they're there for you. That's why they're here. Go talk to them. If you've got a reprimanded employee and you need guidance on how you need to do it, that's what they're here for. Please utilize them. They want you to do that. That's what they're here for. But a lot of leaders just shy away from it. I've never seen anything like it. I use HR as my ally, as my friend. And if you utilize that, it'll help you as a leader. It's just, I've had people say it just blows me away. And it's the complete opposite. This is crucial, and this is the last sort of basic point as it relates to staff and personnel, is do not keep staff who are underperforming on longer than they need to be. I don't necessarily agree with this motto completely. Fire fast, hire slow. But what I do agree with, if there's a problem employee who is underperforming, the longer you keep them on, the worse it is for your division, without a question. And the reason, what I'm trying to tell you is, don't keep them on longer. The reason we all tend to keep them on longer is because we're worried if we let them go, oh my God, how is the work going to be handled? Let me tell you something, because I've done this a million times. I promise you, I'll put $100 to your one. Not only do you know that they're underperforming, your staff knows that they're underperforming, and it's affecting their morale. And I promise you, if you take action and move them out like they deserve to be, they did it to themselves, and you sit with your group, I guarantee you, you won't have a problem about that shortcoming that you're worried about, because they'll be more than happy to take on the workload that they did just to have them out the door. I promise you. I promise you. We've all been in those situations, all of us. I don't know how the work will get done. I promise you, y'all, your team will be so happy. It'll be like that new day for them. And Lois and them, they will rise up like you can't believe, just because they were tired of that underperforming person there to begin with. So the longer you keep them on, it affects the morale within your department. And the quicker you let them out and you will find that team is going to rise to the occasion and be more than happy. They were ready to help you out a month ago when you kept that person on. I promise you. They have no problem with that. Now, how do you grow as a leader? Okay? And a lot of things I just talked to you about, things you've seen before, through try to take personal example, but how do you grow? How do you grow as a leader? First thing you need to do, and a lot of you do this, I mean, you all are professionals. You all are professionals. And you need to read, you need to learn from other people. I mean, I know that Gene and Michael and Yugi and the engineer, I guarantee you, they spend at least time at home, on the internet, reading books, getting better, learning what's out there. If they didn't, they would never grow. Because you know how many people are in technology who want to be great? You're never going to be great if you don't continue to learn and grow and see. So read, learn from people who are successful. As part of this training, company's providing a book to everybody to help grow as leaders. And I think it's a great book. And I don't know if have you given that to everybody already?
For new leaders.
For the new leaders. Yeah, so for the newer leaders, we've done that. I'll get you guys a different book.
I was going to say, you sound like Oprah, when she had the show. You're getting a free book. And then
Well,
you take it back.
if you want to see the Oprah, then you can go see Eddie's office over there. They've got the JIRA books that they pass out there. They say, here's a JIRA for you, a JIRA for you, a JIRA for everybody. A JIRA for everybody. Here's another important thing to grow as a leader, is you need to listen. You need to listen. There's nothing more frustrating, and I know this has happened to every one of you, because it drives me crazy. We're in a meeting, and you ask a question, and our business has evolved for over 23 years. There's so many business rules, Gene. I mean, there's so many different, right? So much to learn. So you'll be in a meeting, you'll be like, well, when did we put that in place? And then someone has to be the smart person in the room and say, oh yeah, we did that on September of 2012. Really? Are you sure? Because I thought it was more like in 2000. No, I think if you don't know the answer, I'm not talking to you, but if you don't know the answer, it's okay not to answer. I prefer you not to answer the question and say that I'll go check. How often does that happen? It drives me nuts. You're actually getting on my nerves if you're throwing out something and you're not sure about it. Have y'all been in meetings? It's like, let's teach people, if you're not sure, it's okay. Lord knows, I mean, so much has happened in 23 years. I called Martha just the other day, asked her about something, and you had to go back and check. We thought we knew it, but we weren't sure. But, and what I'm trying to say is listen. A lot of people, when someone's talking, when a leader's talking, a lot of people, when someone's talking, instead of listening, they think about how they're going to respond to what the person's saying. Just listen. Just listen. You don't have to respond to everything. Just listen to it. And you don't need to respond. And a lot of people think that when someone's talking, they're listening and trying to, while they're talking, which means they're not listening to everything they're saying, how they're going to respond to it. You don't have to do that. Listen, think, and then speak. And our meetings will be more productive, and that's the way we should train our people. I read a book about Mike Krzyzewski wrote, Coach K, and he said when he's in the huddle and he looks at his 12 players, he says that you know how you have these guys in the huddle, and some of them will be like when he's calling a play out, they'll be like this, Ken. And then you'll have someone who makes no eye movement. They make no facial expression. But then the other guy's like this. He says that he's found that the person who actually does this isn't even listening to what he's saying. That it's the person who has the stone cold look who looks at him who actually is the one who's listening to him. Because the other one's just trying to appease him, So there's many different leadership styles, and when you're thinking about growing, pick a bunch of different styles that people use. Bobby Knight, here's another great example of a leader. Bobby Knight has probably, forgotten more about basketball than most people even know. Okay? Would you agree? He's forgotten probably more basketball than people even know. That's how much he knows. But he comes from a military background, one of the greatest coaches in any sport, right? Came from West Point. And here's his management philosophy. His management philosophy is this: I'm going to put together the best game plan you've ever seen. But somebody is going to screw it up. That's his motto. I have put together what I'm playing against Purdue or whatever team it is the best game plan, but somebody is going to screw it up. But it's actually not a bad management style, Ken. You know why? He's already planning to be able to audible if he needs to be for somebody not executing something. You know what I mean? So all these different styles are pretty unique, and what I'm just trying to get at is learn from them. Learn from different leaders and take all the different parts of that and mold it into your own. Make a difference every day. What I try to do when I come in here every day, doesn't happen every day, but it's my goal. I promise you, when I wake up every morning, I come in, I am happy. I'm happy. Now, it's those common sense, fundamental things that tend to just, but when I come in here, I'm always happy, and by the time I leave here every day, I want to make a difference. I say, did I make a difference in this organization and make it better today, Yugi, than I made it the day before? And if I did, I feel like I've accomplished something. I feel like I've accomplished, and get that mindset. Did I make the corporation better? Because I can tell you this, y'all. If you have that mindset, we know that you're doing well. We know that you're giving back to the company and helping the company tremendously. Here's one that's hard for me, that I struggle with, that it's just important for all of us, is in order to grow, we got to stay healthy. We got to stay healthy. This is hard. We all work hard, very hard. We need to eat right. We need to exercise. We need to take time for ourselves. And the reason I say this to this team specifically is because we all do work hard. There's not one person in here I know I have friends, y'all, that I grew up with. They don't work for us. Steve has friends, and Eddie, because we all ran we have friends, and they're like, I work at 8:30, I leave at 5. Every day. But you know what? They're doing the same darn thing that they were doing. They ain't anywhere. They're not a leader. People who are leaders are exceptional. You know what I mean? And you all are exceptional. And we have friends who are like, man, I got it made. Well, you know the same thing you've been doing for 25 years, bro.
Well, they're the ones who complain when they're 30 minutes over time.
Yeah, exactly.
When it's 5:30, it's like, what?
But you all are leaders. People are exceptional, do the extraordinary. And the reason I say this, eat right, take time for yourself, stay healthy. Look, we've got a great insurance plan. Make sure you go take your physicals. Make sure you see the doctor. Your health is so critical. It's because I do know that you all work so hard. So it's important that we try to take that time. I still struggle with that. I've gotten a little bit better as I've gone. I'm going to the doctor a little bit more, going in for checkups, but I need to get a little bit better. I need to keep, and y'all need to do the same exact thing. We need to continue to preach teamwork across all divisions. 5 years ago, I thought it was a huge problem here, teamwork. I think each year we get better. And I tell you why we're getting better. We're bringing in better people. We're bringing in more experienced people. You all are growing as leaders. Are we the best? No, but we're getting better. And I think how we can help each other is by all of you all communicating well and making sure that your people communicate across all those channels and all those sectors. Stay positive. I'll have people, and I think y'all have probably done it to me once at one time or another. Man, I can't, they'll shoot me an email. Oh, I can't believe we lost this person. It's a bad day. Well, sometimes I look at that and I say, well, maybe we find somebody better. Maybe they weren't the right person if they're not here anymore. Maybe God's telling us something. Yeah, I think we can find somebody better for that role. Always think positively. Don't think negatively. If you think negatively, you are not a good leader, and your people are going to hate working for you, and they are not going to listen to what you say and follow you. You know, one of the greatest leaders of all time was Ronald Reagan. Reagan was one of the best speakers ever, but he was a positive man. And I don't know if you remember in Ronald Reagan's second term, he did this thing for a couple years, and he would go around all the world and he would give everybody this thumbs up. I don't know if y'all remember. It was like, we're in this together. We're in this together. And he was just positive. A true story, true story. Ronald Reagan's in New York City. He's about to get into his limousine. And he sees a guy over there and he gives him the thumbs up. And this guy turns around at him and does like this. And Reagan, being the positive man he is, he gets in the limo, talks to his wife, he goes, at least he's getting the hang of it. At least he's getting the hang of it. You know, so you always got to stay positive. You know, you always got to stay positive in what you're doing. This is, I talked about this before, and I can't stress this enough. Hire people who are better than you. Hire people. Eddie, if you're looking for someone to come in and work with direct vendors, hire someone who's done it. Who knows, who already has the role. I mean, we've talked about this, but any of you guys, you're hiring mobile developers, hire the best ones. Hiring code release people, you've already made a huge difference in our organization because of your expertise. We want the best. We want the best, you know? And we've done a better job as a company growing because as we grew so fast, we would tend to just put people in positions. That was my responsibility. And as we've gotten bigger and smarter, what has happened is we brought in people who really know what they're doing, and we can support them and continue to bring better people in all the time. Continue to reinvent yourself. Continue to reinvent yourself and always be open to change. There's a lot of change in this organization. And the reason there's a lot of change is because we don't want to be like, you ever heard of Smith Corona? JR speaks about this. Smith Corona was one of the largest Fortune 500 companies in the world 50, 60 years ago. The typewriter. One of the largest companies in the world. Never would go out of business. They never changed. Next came the word processor. Next came the computer. Smith Corona is done. And you can name a lot of other companies who fell into that. So the reason we change, you all, is because we don't want to stay stale. We feel like if we don't change... Now, here's another thing. Do we always make the right decision and change? No. No, we don't. But if you don't continue to try different things, you'll never get better. I think we've gotten better about what things we are going to do to make change, and more calculated in how we want to make them than before, where it was more of a fire and then aim kind of process. I mean, I think we're trying to get better at that. But when we do change, we're always thinking, like you'll hear some changes that we're doing across for personnel. That change that we're going to make for personnel is the only reason we're doing it is because I truly believe it's going to benefit our staff. And if I didn't, I wouldn't even do it. I wouldn't even think about it. Initially, there'll be a little pain for us, but I guarantee in 6 months, y'all are going to be like, man, this is the best thing that's ever happened. And that's the only reason we're doing it. It's because of that exact reason. I wouldn't even touch it otherwise. So be open to change and make sure that your team is open to change. Because if they're not open to change, they're never just going to grow. They're never going to grow. Now, I'm getting close to the end zone, I promise. Let's talk about one of the biggest points in leadership. And it's probably the hardest one for all of us. It's delegating. Delegating. You've talked to me about that. You wanted to reach out to me and sort of resonated with me. Kathleen showed me some stuff and we talked about some stuff. And delegation is the hardest part of leading. Okay? And so let me tell you that there are 5 levels of delegation. And we're going to send this out to everybody. But this is going to really hit home with you. There's 5 levels of delegation. Many leaders, including myself, okay? And I think it's something I've gotten better with and I still need to get better with and still need to get better. I'm learning. Many managers fail to achieve their potential because they allow themselves to be held back by a reluctance of delegation. A reluctance to delegate. Delegation is an important tool in creating time for ourselves to focus on priorities, okay? It also allows others to grow and learn. Yet we still hesitate to do it. Why? Why do we hesitate to do it? A common fear is that the subordinate, your subordinate, will do something that we will have to undo later, right? Or that they will ask for too much guidance, we all know this, and that it would just be easier to do it ourselves. Is that right? No doubt. It'll just be easier, Kevin, if I just do it. You have to know each one of your team and your subordinates and know what level of delegation you're going to give to them. The first level of delegation is, all right, and I'm going to use Steve as my example. Let's say Steve is on my team, I'm the leader, or Steve's, Steve, I need you to look into this problem. Give me the facts and the alternatives. I will decide what to do. Okay? That manager, I'm using myself as an example, the manager who delegates at this level will always find him or herself solving other problems. Okay? Particularly eager, this leader, competent subordinates will probably not stick around. You give them no authority, you give them no empowerment, you give them nothing. So that's the least level of delegation. Second level of delegation, a little bit better. Steve, recommend a course of action for my approval. Better, recommend a course of action for my approval. People are encouraged to analyze situations on their own and then come to the manager with solutions, not with problems. Second level of delegation. Not bad, okay? And some of the people you've done that with. Of course you all have done this on a consistent basis. The third level, even better. Steve, let me know what you intend to do. Go ahead and do it unless I tell you otherwise. Little slight variation, but better. This is the level at which managers begin to empower people. Subordinates are entrusted with decision-making authority, but can be stopped before making costly mistakes. Make sense? The fourth level, even better. Steve, take action. Let me know what you did and how it turns out, but keep me informed. I do that one a lot. I find that I do that one. That's when I try to get into that fourth level. This leader is delegating responsibility, but still wants to be kept in the loop in case he or she receives questions about a project. You ever found those? You ever had those? Yeah, right? Fifth one, the highest level of delegation. Steve, take action. No further communication with me is necessary. I mean, that's the full level of delegation. This is the highest level of delegation, reserved for subordinates whose judgment you fully trust, or projects that can be fully handled without your involvement. If you've got people in your organization who you trust with number 5, don't ever lose them. Those are so valuable. Isn't it a great feeling? And I have people like that, where you know if you give something to somebody, you know you don't have to follow up with it. It's gonna get done. It's a beautiful feeling. And so those are those levels of delegation, but in order to know which ones to do, you gotta know your people, right? You really have to know your people. So that's really, really important. Now in closing, I truly believe 2015 is going to be a great year here. I mean, we are committed to working together, working with the leadership here. I believe we're poised with the personnel here better than we've ever had before. I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm excited that I'm working harder now than I did last year, which I don't think is how, I can't believe how I can do it. But I really feel we've got the right people here and the right team. And for you all, I mean, if yesterday was a bad day, make today the first day of the rest of your life. Make a difference. Make a difference here with the company and with your life. Leadership, there's no cookie cutter approach to leadership at all. It has to be molded, it has to be developed to mesh with the personality of the leader. Like I talked to the Stuart Scott analogy, be yourself. If you try to be someone else, people will not respect you. They'll read right between you. Be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Learn from other people, and you can tailor yourself to learn and how you would behave and so forth as a leader. Learn that way, but always be yourself. Too many leaders are too robotic. Nothing worse than please do not have the same monotone. Oh my God, it drives me crazy, Colbert. Like, these people will make decisions, the hardest, the weakest, the medium decision, and it is the same way. Can you get excited? I mean, can you like tone it down a little bit? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't be the same. You know what I mean? Let it be fluid, right? Too many leaders are too robotic with their leadership style. You need to be flexible, like we talked about. But we talked in a previous meeting, and someone brought up about how do you be flexible and consistent. It's a good point. It's a good point. Because you got to be consistent, but you also need to know how to be flexible and know your team. You have to be who you are in a way that people will believe you. Remember, don't be somebody that you're not. And trust, and for people to trust and respect you. Leadership is much more an art, a belief, a condition of the heart than a set of things to do. So, that's what it's about. I don't have all the... these are experiences that I've had for 23 years, and there's no magic formula. I'm just trying to pass on to you what I've learned. I'm sure that there's a lot of things that you all can pass on to me and other people. We're all in it together. We're all in this boat together. I appreciate single thing that you all do. I just think that we are poised and have a great team here of people. Better than we did the year before, better than we had the year before that. And I think that we're getting better all the time. And it's because of you. And it's making the company greater. So I appreciate you all for that. I don't know if we have about 3-4 minutes if you have any questions about anything that you want to cover. If not, I hope that maybe you might have gotten one thing out of this that might have hit up here that you can utilize. But I think it's just important for us to pass on our ideas, our experiences, and it doesn't end here. It continues on with us talking and having dialogue together and so forth. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.